Hi there, my name is Tulja Singhvi, and welcome to the episode of the All-Star Weekend. Today, though, before we get there, we have to choose who is in as an All-Star. And how do we decide that? Well, first of all, we're going to have to figure out who's on a good team. We're going to go through a dive of every single team and see what I think of each team. Everything is fair, but teams have definitely performed better than others in a lot of cases. After Event 10, we are at the All-Star Weekend. Let's take a dive in. First up, at the Limers. I don't want to roast them in this video, but it's too hard not to. They've just not had a good year at all. They're at 28 points, and when they had a chance to not be behind 100 points, they battled up there and they still lost. They battle as hard as they can. They lose everything. They got last place after they actually had won a practice round. And not just one match, they won a practice round. Things were looking high for them. But then, they just finished in last. Sublime couldn't get them a good finish, and Limelight couldn't get them a good finish. Nobody's able to save the Limers. And it may just end up being too late, considering how things have gone. Limelight did get them a 7th place finish back in Sprint, but that's their best result of the entire season. They started off as a 14th and they're last. That first part of the season looks better than the second part, if you put it that way. Our next team to look at is Mellow Yellow. Mellow Yellow, also quite the interesting team. It started off well for them. They were in 6th place. They actually almost had a chance at 5th, but they lost to Team Momo. Since then, those two teams have gone on opposite sides of the spectrum. Team Momo's actually sitting in 6th right now, but Mellow Yellow in 15th. It has just been a really tough time for them. If you call it a bad time, that's really what they're in. They score points, but they can never score enough. They have good marbles, but those good marbles can't get good results. The future awaits the team of Mellow Yellow. If they don't act fast, this marble is going to end up too quick for them, and they could be eliminated from championship contention relatively soon. Only 6 events to go. It will be a 16-event league. And into Event 10, they're in 15th. It's not a whole lot of points to their name. That was the 15th place Mellow Yellow, who have 42 points. Next up is the 14th place Shining Swarm, who have 50 points. And this one's kind of interesting. The first event, how it went, has kind of summed up their marbling. I watched the videos in slow motion sometimes, and I noticed how they were almost up in 2nd place, but then they blew it when they got momentum. The moment Java Chunks and the Oceanics started fighting, they took part in that battle. Ended up being a key one that the Java Chunks won. But Shining Storm had so many opportunities to win, but every time they would get up there, they just fell down the order to the point where it was the end and they couldn't beat the Java Chunks or the Oceanics. They didn't finish well in that event. That's kind of how it's summed up. Take Event 8 and Event 9. In Event 8, they got 5th place, beating some top-tier teams like Cobalt and Minty Maniacs. But in Event 9, then they lost to everyone. They got last. Did last place, and that dropped them 3 spots from 9th to 12th. Last event, they dropped another 2 spots to 14th, to the point where that 9th place was kind of almost their high this season. And no offense racing, but when 9th place is the highest you can go, it's got to probably have to do with something else. And I'd say that they're going to get some good results soon if they want to contend. I think Mellow Yellow may have a slightly better chance because Mellow Yellow doesn't necessarily blow momentum when they get the edge. Maybe Mellow Yellow doesn't have as many points as they have, but Mellow Yellow has been a little bit more consistent for sure. Now to the 13th place Lion Glaciers. Now this one's also interesting. They lost 4 spots in the last event. They got some momentum off of a decent finish, but then they lost all of that momentum and are in a 3-way tie against teams with 51 points. Did you technically hold that tiebreaker But actually, based on the way that the referees judged it, it's not exactly going to work out for him. So basically, you could say that yes, they are the 11th place team. They only dropped 2 spots. But then, again, they also have dropped 4. You say they dropped 3. It depends on which way you look at the battle. It's Indigo Stars technically, then Java Chunks and Glide Glaciers. Glide Glaciers have the medal, but that's only from one of their teammates. Their better finishes have just come from Glacy. And then when they changed uniforms, Glacy wasn't the best as she used to be, and that's kind of just affecting them. Some teams go through uniform changes, but they have to figure out, okay, is it worth it? And so far here, it's shown that it's not really worth it. They have potential, I can definitely see that. But with things the way the things go, I guess that second place that they got in the black hole funnel, I'm just astounded by, honestly. I thought they were going to be Shore in the final, but Shore did end up taking the gold for the Oceanics. But they picked up silver. That's their highest spot of the season. They're the lowest team with some medals, though. And teams ahead of them also could have just 1 medal, like Crazy Cat's Eyes. And then you end up in the top half, and then that's a whole nother animal. But they had just chances. They're just not utilizing them. Do you know how to escape a last place if they see it, though? They were in last place after event 2, and Glacy picked up a 5th. But if Glacy's not always going to be there for him to pick up those good spots, the question is, can somebody else step up? And then you have the 12th place Java Chunks. The way that I look at the battle, they've gained 1 spot. They have no medals, however. They, like I said, were able to beat Shining Sword in that battle and Oceanics, especially Oceanics, based off how the Smart League has gone for them. Maybe that wasn't one of their better events, but it definitely was a good one for them. They finished in 7th place, but only 7th. It's just been kind of tough. They also finished 7th place in archery, got 7th place in the 7th event. Since people say that's golden, but it is only 7th place, and finishing last in the last event doesn't necessarily seem like the way to close out a Marble League, but I digress. So, going for the Java Chunks, that battle in the first one, I showed it. They know how to fight, and they're pretty good at the fighting. Well, they need to get to those fights more often, so they can show the world that they can win them, because they can't win them if they're not there. Java Chunks, I do feel like they have potential, and they can definitely improve their position. They just need to figure out how to get there. Once they figure out how to get there, though, teams like Indigo Stars, who I'm going to mention next, should watch out. They have Indigo Stars. They've been in 14th place for a very long time after they climbed Baliolo. That 15th, 14th place, they even almost had to be almost just like the Limers. It's been a tough battle for them. I'd say that much. Go-Go picked up the highest finish for the team back in event 2. But that's only back in event 2 compared to now. I think the Smart League has shaped up decently, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's been good. It showed that their rookie season in 14th was definitely not a fluke compared to where they are, but it could improve based off the way it is. They technically have done just as much as Glide Glaciers and Java Chunks, and that's because when they finish in the mid-pack, they're able to just outscore their opponents. So even if it doesn't make a difference now, they do know how to play in the long run. The problem is that it's only in the long run. It could end up being too late if things continue like this. And now, off to our 10th place team, the White Wolves. And this one's a little bit interesting. It's just been the fact that I've never really seen a spotlight this much this season. Needs a rookie team. But that's not to say that they haven't seen the spotlight. I mean, they got 4th place in event 2 and sat tied for 4th after that, but it's just kind of gone downhill. They recovered a little bit here and there. They sit in 10th place, but teams are jumping down and teams are going below them. They're just staying in the exact same place they are. This has to be a little bit frustrating as a team. I mean, going down a spot or going up a spot sometimes is exciting, but when you stay in the same place for so long, it gets boring. I mean, isn't that why we go on vacation? Like, the reason why I want to go on vacation. Okay, that's off topic. I digress again, but, I mean, it's just that they haven't really gotten the chances this season, but when they have, they've tried to utilize it. It's just been the fact that they cannot seem to get up to those chances based off of where they stand. And it's got to be a little bit frustrating as a team that you're just staying in one place. But soon enough, they shouldn't either move up or move down a spot based off the ways that they're going. Now next up to our 9th place team, the Crazy Cat's Eyes. And this one's also kind of interesting. I mean, first of all, that bronze in the last event shocked me in Survivor Rally. If you're telling me you saw that coming, show me where you saw that coming. I would say that they weren't the last team I'd expect to get a medal, because I know who that is, and I don't want to really hurt the fans' feelings again for the 10,000th time this season and more. But I don't want to say that it's not highly unlikely. I just said it's just that they were a team you'd normally expect. I mean, coming into this, Cyanide, someone who's running for him, Cyanide is not finished good, and these are up the finishes that he's gotten a chance in this season, but he turned it around here and won a bronze. He actually had a chance at silver, but that last match he played in was just not really good. Otherwise, he could have done it. In triathlon, he wasn't that well, and in funnel spilling, he wasn't that well, but he really showed that Crazy Cat's Eyes could do it. They sit in 9th, and they think that they could probably jump up higher. I mean, take a page out of 2020 season, and that was pretty good. Now up to our 8th place, the Minty Maniacs. They lost a spot after the last event, and while they have had good finishes, it's just almost been bad luck for them. I mean, event 9, they get 4th place, one of their higher finishes this season. That sounds really good, right? Well, the teams that were... And now, after we finish Minty Maniacs, let's head up to our 7th place team, the Turtle Sliders. They were long tenured in 8th place. Can we just give them a round of applause that they got 3 straight medals, and it was all orchestrated by Dash. 3, 2, 1. Woo-hoo! I noticed we try to make no bias in this, but I mean, man, Dash got 3 straight medals. He got his first medal, a bronze at event 8. Then he got 9. Well, he got a bronze at event 9, and then he won gold against Lightning in event 10. I saw he was the underdog. He just pulled off the upset like nobody's business. He beat Lightning, showing Lightning who's boss. And Lightning had already won a gold medal, so you know that it's a good competitor. And that's not to disrespect the rest of his team by any means. Ever since event 6, they've gone a streak on only top half finishes after a bottom half in event 5 and they sat in 10s. They want to improve their position, and they did. Now, in 7th place, they are still 12 points behind Team Momo, but they know that they can at least climb Team Momo the next event. And then if you want to go behind that, 15 points to Bumblebees, and then, well, the next that's impossible, 24 points to Oceanics. But they're closing in on their rivals. They're closing in of the teams they need to close into. They're only 27 points behind the first compared to 44. They're closing all ground, and I mean the reason why it wasn't more was because the leader changed, and I mean you can't really control that. But they have a good chance to win this Marble League now, and I have to say that after that last event, they should look promising. As long as they carry on that momentum, they could just finish this Marble League as one of the best comeback stories of all time. They started in 10s, and they could have been there a lot. But yeah. Now up to our 6th place is Team Momo, a team that's also shown a lot of grit and determination. They don't even have one of their main members in action. Momo is injured for this entire practice Marble League, and he's just taking it easy. But their other 4 members have done the work needed to be done. And all of their medals have to do with Mimo. I'd definitely say he's a great competitor. I mean, he got their first medal, a bronze, at event 4 after Momo got 5th in event 1. But he followed that up with 2 bottom half finishes. They've still shown that they can do this, and they can. After not so great in event 5, I mean, they got a top half, but It wasn't necessarily like high top half. They came back in event 6 with a 4th place. And then they followed that up in event 7 with another bronze from Nemo. And then in event 8, they got a 4th place from Mo. And in event 9, they won the gold medal coming back against the Cobalts. I mean, when you're facing the Cobalts full on, it's going to be hard. Just ask the Cobalts. Ask Team Momo. Ask any team that has faced the Cobalts. It's pretty hard. Cerulean and Meepo do a lot of the work, with Zero and Royal just being there in case something goes wrong. But yet, they got past the formation and did it in. In the last event, they got 6th place and they couldn't beat the Cobalts. But still, that's where they sit in the standings. They didn't lose anything just because they got 6th place. It's actually gotten them closer to teams like the Bumblebees, which is what we're going to cover next. This Marble League reminds me a little bit of the Crazy Cat size in the 2020 Marble League. It's just that they never have the lead. They start off decent and they try to get better, and they pretty much get better as it goes along. But they struggle just to keep consistency, and they face their first bottom half finish in event 10, as Swax just could not do it. He couldn't even get 9s, but I will give him credit for trying though. That was one of the most exciting matches between him and the Jump Chunks, Oceanics, and even when Mellow Yellow came in. That was a very exciting match. This is coming from a person who has seen a lot of matches. A very great match. But even then, they only scored 6 points. They have Team Momo closing in on them, and they got jumped by the Thunderbolts. They couldn't climb Oceanics or Cobalts or Hazers. They had a chance to climb all of them. Instead, they remained with 3 medals. The requirement to an All-Star is that you need at least 1 podium. But their team captains, the only one who has not gotten a podium, Bumble. So then you have to wonder if Bumble is probably the same as state captain. But again, Swax has a bottom half and B has a bottom half. And the last few events haven't gone as well as the first ones have. But I don't think they're going to give up hope yet, because they are in 5th. And they're only 12 points behind the first. That's doable in one event. If you win gold and the first place team does a podium, you're jumping them. But then again, there's everybody else. But I think the Bumblebees could still do it. And the last 3 events may have just been a fluke. But we'll see in the next event, in event 11. The next up, we have the Oceanics. And their story has been one that I think is just personally really astounding. It starts off in last place. Ocean just didn't make it out the first round. Right after he didn't, he finished in last place in the event. Their rivals were ahead of them for the first time, and things could have maybe gone downhill. But C tried to mind the fact that his beloved team captain didn't do well. He followed it up with a bronze medal. Shore then has 2 golds, and one of them came in event 3, which is when he won the gold for the Oceanics. But in event 4, Aqua couldn't replicate it. But they knew that they had to find their chance to catch the Cobalts, the ever-long leaders, who had only lost it in one event, event 2, sent into Maniacs, where they gained it right back. Shore came in and upset Glacie and won the event for the Oceanics, putting them just 1 point away from the Cobalts. And Seat scored Cerulean by 2 points, but that got them the lead in the overall standings. But Aqua faltered in the next event, and they fell down, only for Ocean to rebound with a gold medal and making up for a goose egg in event 1, coming away with the win. But in event 9, things didn't go as smooth as they finished in 6th. But still, it looks like they had promise. But in the last event, Aqua faltered once more, didn't even pick up top half, and the Oceanics fell to 4th. I don't blame them. Getting bottom half when your rivals are going to be in the top half is a tough thing to do to hold the lead, but they could have helped it by at least winning that matchup. They tried to battle against Fox in Chocolate, lost to both of them, and then they almost lost to Yellow. Such competitors to challenge the Oceanics. Oceanics could not do it. But we'll see where it goes from here, because he said that they want to beat their rivals. They're ahead of them, but the gap has shrunk to just 24 points. Almost. And we'll see what happens from here, because they were dominant almost. 3 gold medals. They lead the league in golds. Ensures the only double gold medalist in this league. Now in their third place, you have the Cobalts. I know they lost a spot after the last event. I know they only finished 5th. Honestly, so I think it's just, I think it was a good result. Maybe they lost ground on the leader, but they didn't. He jumped Oceanics, but the Oceanics did bad. The Hazers tied them, but the Hazers had the tiebreaker, and the Thunderbolts are only 1 point ahead. So being in 3rd place and dropping 1 spot from 2nd to 3rd isn't bad when you consider the fact you're only 1 point off of 1st. What stopped them though from saying that they have 2nd place routers and 3rd is the fact that they only have 3 medals and the Hazers have 4. They missed the podium and tried to get their points off of other things, but that starts to hurt a little bit because then they just cannot win tiebreakers. Teams that would have to tiebreaker against right now would be Minty Maniacs, Crazy Cat's Eyes, Glide Glaciers, and all the other teams that don't have medals. Those teams are far behind them. They need to focus on ahead, but with only 3 medals, it's starting to cost them a little bit down the line. It's the exact opposite of a team that looks good on paper, but it's not good. Because they're good, but on paper they're not that great. And when you compare them, there are several teams with 4 medals. 4 teams with 4 medals. And they are the highest team that does not have 4 medals, which is showing that you don't need medals to necessarily do great. But in order to get to the next level, they'll have to get medals because then they cannot win tiebreakers. But I don't think this is not a great marbling form because they've closed the gap up to the leader, and even though they lost 1 spot, they're technically tied with the 2nd place team. They're shortly off of 1st. So I don't think there's any reason to panic. But that's just my take. And then you have your 2nd place Hazers who jumped the Cobalts, but they're tied. They made up 1 point on them, but they gained 1 spot. Just based off of how close it was, that's why they're in 2nd place. Because of how close it was. Misty did a podium, but Misty did grab 4th place and to help under 4 medals. But if Misty just beat Cyanide, they would have had 5 medals. That would lead the league. And we're not even talking about what colors the medal was. Getting a medal in this event, compared to where the Thunderbolts finished, not interfering with where the Thunderbolts finished. If they got gold or bronze, they would take the lead. But it got 4th and you're 1 point off of the lead. Thunderbolts jumped 4 spots, but the Hazers technically jumped 1. And you're 1 point off of 1st, and they would have to tiebreaker if you get your team medals again. And now our league leaders, the Thunderbolts. I mean, I was first shocked when I was adding up the totals. I thought it was like Hazers or Cobalts was the lead. But then I realized, no, this is Thunderbolts. I did a double take to make sure I wasn't adding it up wrong, and I wasn't. They were out in front by 1 point because all this time they've been gathering points and gathering medals to help them in the long run. And here, it is helping them in the long run. They take the lead by 1 point. 2 silvers, a gold, and a bronze is what's done it for them thus far. The only thing that's stopping them is that only 2 marbles from their team have medals and 3 from the Hazers. And you don't have the tiebreaker against the Hazers because the Hazers have 2 golds and the Thunderbolts have 1. But still, that doesn't seem too hard to make up. If you don't need tiebreakers, then that's good because then you don't have to go to any sort of tiebreaker match or anything. So it's not like it's actually hurting them that much, but getting a gold would definitely help them. But where they are is in the lead. They jumped 4 spots because Lightning Silver was key based on how everybody else fared. But if the Hazers had medaled at a bronze, then they would have needed gold. But silver was enough to take the lead and shock me, shock some of the fans, and I'll just stop making Thunderbolt puns with shocks. But they charged up there on me. I'm having a little bit of fun myself. But now, let's announce the All-Stars. We'll announce them one by one. The captains, who we will announce, will go last. Not to say that the captains are bad. It means that we're going to save the best for last. The first All-Star to be announced in Marble League history will be Shorevy Oceanics. When you're on the 4th place team and you have helped your team get up to 1st, oh yes, I'll shake your hand. You definitely have to be an All-Star. The first double gold medalist here has scored 60 points and leads the most valuable marble award race. And now, second up, we have Minty Flav the Minty Maniacs, was just chosen based off his silver medals because they've seen so much promise in them, and clever tactics have gotten him to be where he is. Next up, who will we announce? We will show you guys the All-Star Smoggy of the Hazers. His last event wasn't that great, but he still has scored 48 points, and 40 of them by himself. Our fourth one up is Captain Thunder of the Thunderbolts. Will not be a captain here, but has captained his team to really take the lead in the standings. In fact, the Thunderbolts have 2 All-Stars. Let's see if we can guess that second before we announce it. In 3, 2, 1, Lightning of the Thunderbolts has got a gold and a silver and a 7th place, and has shown a lot of greatness throughout. We can definitely see him being one of the better marbles as he's an All-Star. Next up, Captain Cerulean of the Cobalt. Took event 1, was a key part of his team, winning a silver medal in event 9, and also has gone in the top half of every single event. And now our captains. Our first captain will be Mimo of Team Momo. There will be Team Mimo instead of Team Momo, if you will. Team Mimo will be one of the teams. We have 64 athletes, except for the ones, of course, that have already gotten registered. And here is the last one, who will be an All-Star and an All-Star captain. It will be Captain Dash of the Turtle Sliders. Based off of how he's done in the last events, there's no doubt he would have been an All-Star. But All-Star captain is now him. We'll see you guys in a little bit at the All-Star draft.